And the Tito administration, which murdered them, including their women and children, and shot them in cold blood, might well be exposed to what we would call a war crime.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to interview you. Could you state your name for us, please?
My name is Gerald Draper.
And Mr. Draper, what is your date of birth?
30 May 1914.
And your place of birth?
My place of birth was at Hove in Sussex in England.
Are you retired at this point?
I'm a retired academic, that is Professor Emeritus of the University of Sussex, from which I retired in 1977, and before that I was a assistant professor in the University of London for the period 1967, or rather 1967 to 1975, yes.
And what were you a professor of?
Law.
Law. And what university did you graduate from?
University of London in 1935, and I took my mastership in 1937, and I was doing my dissertation when the war began, and I had to abandon that to go into the army.
I understand that during following World War II, that you were a senior British officer for the British occupied zone in Germany, where you acted as a prosecutor for war crimes, and also from time to time you were assigned to the Nürnberg trials, which were the famous war crimes trials.
Yes, that is correct. The office that was entrusted in the British zone with the prosecution of German war criminals was called the Office of the Judge Advocate General, which is the legal side of the military under the British legal system. This office was entrusted in 1945 with the commitment of trying staff, and continued on through a diversity of war crimes trials, finally ending, as far as that office was concerned, in the close of the year 1949, about December 1950.
Wasn't it you, in fact, that took the confession of Rudolf Höss, who was the commandant of Auschwitz camp?
It was. That took place somewhere in about the period, second half of March 1946, when he had just been arrested in the northern area of Germany as a civilian and was brought in for identification. He was not tried by the British. He was taken to Nürnberg as a witness called by the defense on the part of the defendant at Nürnberg, Kaltenbrunner, who wished to establish through the mouth of this witness Höss that the gassing of Jews on a mass scale was a top secret matter, in order that the honor of the German people might be spared. And Kaltenbrunner took it into his head that this would be something that would appeal to the court to show what a nice chap he was. And therefore he wanted to establish that the whole of the gassing operation, the final solution of the Jewish question by the Reich, was a top secret matter, and the top secrecy had to be preserved by people like the commandant Höss.
I think there's even a picture, isn't there, of in Tom Bauer's Blind Eye, the murder of Höss confessing to you about the murders that
yes, there is.
He was responsible
for? He was afterwards tried. When he completed his evidence at Nuremberg, he was afterwards taken to Poland and tried by the Polish legal authorities for his crimes committed while he was commandant at Auschwitz, sentenced, found guilty, sentenced with others to death, and was in fact hanged outside his garden in Auschwitz, and you can see the gallows in situ to this day.
How long did you act in this capacity as
I acted in this capacity as a prosecutor of war criminals from the June of 1945 to the December of 1950, with one short period when I was back in England for hospitalization.
Are you familiar with the accusations made that the Yugoslav government once repatriated soldiers and citizens had been sent back to Yugoslavia? The accusation is that they were oftentimes immediately murdered and sometimes were forced to take part in death marches that took as long as a year throughout Yugoslavia?
From the evidence that I have read in the text of the works published by Count Tolstoy, for which his footnotes refer always to documents in the Public Record Office, I just thought the evidence of that was overwhelming.
Well, let me ask you this then, Mr. Draper. If documents were existing today which documented the fact that Croatians and others had surrendered to the British Army, that the British Army had in turn repatriated those Croatians back into Yugoslavia, and then also there are official British documents existing which state that the certain British officers had knowledge that the people who were repatriated were most likely killed when they were sent back to Yugoslavia. If those documents do exist, doesn't it at least add some complicity to the British?
Oh, yes. What you have to establish is, A, that you've got documents or other reliable evidence, preferably documents, showing the orders issued at that time by the appropriate level of British command, saying either these people go back and the detailed movement orders of how they're to go back, or these people are not to be accepted as prisoners and to be debarred from entering into an area under British control, which would leave them at the disposition of their opponents. Then you have to show, that shows that we either received to take them in as prisoners, or, having had them as prisoners, forcibly turned them back towards the people who were destined to decimate them. Then you have to show that knowledge on the part of those giving the orders establishes clearly that they had little doubt, and indeed they would have been demented if they had had no doubt as to what their fate would be.
If they had somehow unknowingly stated in public, in a written document form, that they knew that there would be murders had they been repatriated, then that puts a whole light on it.
It would indeed, and the prosecutor would reckon he had a very easy day.
But if we could just speak specifically about the issue of forcing of somebody of General Keatley's stature and below, of forcing these citizens back into Yugoslavia, knowing, and I think there is sufficient proof
what their fate's more than likely to be,
that they would face death upon their return.
Yes.
Wouldn't not only General Keatley be guilty of the crime, but if those officers below General Keatley also believed that they would be killed, couldn't they be considered?
Oh, certainly. It doesn't mean only one.
As a prosecutor in the Nürnberg trials, and your knowledge in international law, can we consider the issue of the forced repatriation of the Croatians back into Yugoslavia in the hands of Tito's partisan troops? When those Croatians were sent back, most, if not many of them, were slaughtered, if not immediately, soon afterwards. Would you consider, in your opinion, that the killing of those Croatians was a war crime, first of all? And second of all, if the people who did commit the war crimes did in fact kill those innocent people, oftentimes involving men, women, and children who were civilians, were those people then considered war criminals?
I would like to answer that in three levels. Assuming that at the time these incidents happened, in the second half of May, and perhaps later, of 1945, if Croatia was at that time operating in any way, even as the vestiges of the state, and acting in close concert with the Germany as a co-belligerent, the Tito administration, which murdered them, including their women and children, and shot them in cold blood, might well be exposed to what we would call a war crime. Assuming that wasn't there, and Croatia had long since lost the last vestiges of statehood and organization as a belligerent, It would undoubtedly be possible to tax Tito with a crime against humanity, because that would extend to any population connected with the war. And this was a population of those particular people, and it was connected with the war. So there's the second result there. Thirdly, that has to be considered is the question of whether or not any person on the British end of this tragedy, military, civilian, that is ministerial or soldiery, British, of any level, who are shown to have been responsible, either for forcible repatriation of these victims to a known fate, such as cold killing and cold blood at the hands of the Tito authorities, or refusing to accept them into British control and protection in circumstances in which it was perfectly apparent that they would fall into the hands of Tito adherents, who would likewise be known as to be more than likely to decimate them. There may be a serious question of whether certain British people in positions of responsibility and knowledge may not properly be taxed with war crimes.